Hi there, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. It is a bonus Saturday afternoon grandstand special edition. We're going to discuss the Motherwell game tomorrow, and obviously have a wee look back at the Dortmund result on Thursday night there. But before I bring in my guest, Stuart Weir, I should highlight our partners at Zenith Coins and the limited edition they've got going at the moment. So it's a limited edition coin set. There's only 1,872 editions of these worldwide. There's 5 iconic milestones for the special edition. It's the Founding Fathers, Ibrox Stadium, European Cup Winners' Cup, 9 in a row, and 55 league titles. If you want to get one of those, as I said, they're limited edition. There's only 1,872 sets worldwide. They've been released in batches throughout the year. If you want to buy one of those, get yourself onto www.zenithcoins.com. Right, now on to my guest, Stuart, who's kindly hung about since last night, because we were supposed to do this last night, and then I binned it at the last minute because I had to go to Cowdenbeath with my boy. He was playing last night, and it was all just a bit tight. So Stuart's kindly agreed to come on today and be a bit of a Des Lynam. That's what it feels like when I do the show at this time, Stuart, 12:30. I can hear the theme tune to Grandstand in the background, yeah.
I'll just tune in my timpani drums and give me a big bong.
There's a whole age group out there that don't even know what we're talking about, you know what I mean? It'll just be the Rangers dads that get that one. Right, sure. I thought we would, before we go into tomorrow's game, I think we obviously have to talk about Thursday night. A momentous night at Ibrox. A superb victory, knocking out the holders. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think the last time Rangers knocked out the holders was '87 when they beat Dynamo Kiev. You know, that it's a long time since I've knocked out. Did I say the holders?
Yeah.
I mean the favourites. Sorry, favourites for the tournament. A long time since we've done that. You know, a huge night. I mean, a brilliant night. The atmosphere, everything about it. And you would have to say, over the 2 legs, I don't think Rangers can be denied this victory. You know, they to put 6 past a side like Dortmund over 2 games is some going.
What amused me greatly was how this Dortmund side were basically going to hand Rangers their backside on a plate at the start of the draw, and how they have, after 2 games and 180 minutes, they're just an average Bundesliga team. I wonder, I wonder who would set that agenda. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Bodo Glimt are the best team to come to Scotland in the last 30 years.
Absolutely. A Lord of the Rings character. No, I mean, the whole thing about the Rangers win, it was set up in the first leg. You don't beat a team like Dortmund 4-2 away from home without that being an outstanding performance. I don't really care, you know, what kind of nick Dortmund were in or supposedly in. The danger for Rangers the other night for me was the fact that even though Rangers completely and utterly outplayed Dortmund in the first tie, they still managed to score 2 goals. And that was a level of danger I think that Rangers faced. And we saw on Thursday night just how deadly Dortmund could be given the opportunity. And when it went 2-1, you honestly thought, this is it. This is not going to work out the way we maybe had expected. Much the same as in the first game, when Rangers were 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, 4-1 up, you still think to yourself, if they get out of this with a draw, they've done well. But I think Dortmund gave it their best shot on Thursday night, and Rangers more than matched it. And if it hadn't been for an absolutely scandalous decision, thankfully it didn't cost Rangers in the long term. Nevertheless, it was still a dreadful decision. VAR, the use of VAR has long been controversial, but it's even more controversial when you don't give the referee or the officials all the facilities that somebody's sitting with in a studio, and they just don't, turn it over. The referee should be able to look at every single angle of the Kent goal, and if he had seen it from the angle that then every TV viewer saw, they would have immediately said that's a goal, or that goal has to stand.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, in terms of the tie, in terms of the result, an amazing performance for Rangers all in. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and basically we were drawing up our best ever Rangers results over two-leg ties, knockout ties, and that's in the mix to be amongst the best. I still think you go back to 72 and Bayern Munich getting a draw over there, and then winning 2-0 at Ibrox. I still think Leeds United beating them over two legs, and then there was a run to the final of the UEFA Cup a couple of years ago, beating Werder Bremen, Fiorentina, and way back. I mean, I doubt even if you had short trousers at the time, probably still in nappies. In 1978, when Rangers beat PSV, and beat Juventus, those were pretty epic results. But this is right up there. Even, and again, looking at the personnel, people will say that Dortmund were short of their star striker. That absolutely correct. But that aside, you still look at the talent they were able to call upon, and I will say that Jude Bellingham is as good. That was as good a midfield performance I've seen over two games. As anybody in European competition against Rangers. Not quite Gates Dieta in the Champions League in would it be 1999? But
Valencia. I was there that night.
But it was still a great performance, and there were a lot of good performances from the Dortmund side. But all in all, Rangers were more than creditable winners.
Yeah, I would agree. And I found it quite interesting. I spoke about this with Eck when we done the sort of pre-match stuff on Thursday night.
And by the way, if that happens again, take a couple of lemons with you, right? Just to suck up on them so you can take a smile off your face. It was. I know you were delighted and deliriously happy, but there comes a time in a place when maybe you try to be serious, and I just thought the two of you were too happy.
Can't think why, but I like before the game, we were kind of talking, and I was saying that it was a really strange feeling. Every sort of Rangers supporter I knew was going into it really nervous, and I was like, see if we were going into this game 1-0 down from the first leg, we would consider that a result. We would think, Christ, we're still in this, got a right good chance of going through here. And we were 2 goals up, and everybody was, quite nervous. But I think we saw in the first half why. Dortmund played, to optimum levels. They really did turn the screw, and okay, we got off to a good start with the penalty and stuff like that. But you did feel the longer that half went on, we were under P a wee bit. And then when they get the second goal, at half time, you kind of felt it was up in the air. But I think Gio switching the system, I think the change, taking Borna off and moving Bassi out to left back up to 3. And I'd actually say in the second half, we more than matched them. And I think we did actually deserve the victory. You talk about the decision there, the VAR decision. I don't even think you need VAR for that. I didn't see a foul in the Govan stand. The referee obviously didn't see a foul because he never gave it initially. How he then sees a foul looking at VAR is beyond me. But as you say, it's not cost Rangers. We're through. And it was a great night. And I was really chuffed for my boy. I mean, you were talking about sort of special nights there. I mean, I've had a few down the years. Leeds United, I was there that night. Parma was always a big one. I really enjoyed Parma that night. We should have beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League at the last minute free kick sort of denied us. Really, really big nights at Ibrox. That's probably the biggest my son's had. And I think that's the biggest that sort of age group who missed out when we were coming up back through the leagues. I used to sit with my Ibrox watching Rangers against Dennismuir thinking, you're getting the worst sort of introduction to Rangers possible. You know what I mean? And I felt for him on Thursday night. I felt so chuffed for him and people of that age. I should give a wee shout out to our Hebridean bunch that we met the other night. There was a few youngins in there who were obviously hyper. They travelled down from the Hebrides. And that's what I mean. It's that kind of thing. It was a huge, huge night. As I said, the biggest night since we've returned to the top flight and back to Europe. And even if you take what happened in 2012 out, and there had been a continuation in the top tier, that's still a massive result. It's a huge result. They're second in the Bundesliga. They arrived in Glasgow with their own plane, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? They're a huge, huge club. Star-filled, star-studied. And it was just a brilliant night, brilliant atmosphere, brilliant night, and so chuffed for the players and so chuffed for a lot of the supporters who've missed out over the last few years.
It's almost as if the current generation are getting to live the experiences of Rangers fans 60 years ago, when European football was very, very new. And I will say this, that under Steven Gerrard for the last couple of seasons as well, and now continued with Giovanni van Bronckhorst, the current generation of Rangers fans are actually quite spoiled.
Yeah.
That even though Rangers have won a European trophy and have been to, several finals, the fact of the matter is that the last couple of seasons isn't really the norm.
No.
Rangers haven't really, Rangers don't have a record, if you go far enough back, of successive seasons where the tournament formats have changed, but even at that, this has been an exceptional couple of years for Rangers, and the fact that Scotland's points coefficient in European competition is so high is entirely down to Rangers. And again, this season, Rangers are contributing when others are sitting at home.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually said that again. I was speaking to my son coming home on the train, and I was like, that's 3 years in a row we've made the last 16. But I can remember in the 90s, when I was at that prime age, sort of late teens, early 20s, any Scottish club still being in Europe after Christmas was seen as abnormal. You know what I mean? It just did not happen. So to go 3 seasons consecutively, making the last 16, I mean, the draw, Red Star Belgrade, that would give us a chance of getting to the quarterfinals, I would say. That's as good a draw as we could have got. I think I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that we're through. Two difficult ties ahead, but we've got a real opportunity. This isn't the norm, as you say. And I think it's good that you pointed out Steven Gerrard there. I mean, I was quite critical of him when he moved. I was really angry with him when he moved. But you have to give him his place in all this. You know what I mean? He came in, he repaired the club, he repaired the reputation. It was him that sort of put us on this journey in Europe, and it has been a journey. The last 3-4 seasons in Europe have been an absolute joy. And that on Thursday was the sort of cherry on the cake.
Yeah, regardless, getting into this round in the Europa League, regardless of who you're going to play, you start running out of, if you like, easy draws. The easy draws are the ones that you're going to get in the first and second rounds for qualifying for the group stages. If there are any easy draws even there, I think once you get to this stage, there are some serious teams around. And and you could say, well, we've avoided Barcelona, but there's a chance that if you did get through, you'll meet Barcelona somewhere else down the line. I mean, I could see one or two Rangers fans saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we played West Ham?" Well, it would, in terms of it being a spectacle, and the fact that Rangers had never ever played West Ham in European competition. But did you really want the kind of Battle of Britain status, foisted upon a game this early in the tournament? I think maybe if you got to the quarterfinals or semi-finals, or dare I say a final, then that would be fantastic. But just now, I was quite happy that the two of them were kept apart. And again, I'll reiterate, you are up against some decent teams. Anybody that's in the last, if you can imagine, if Rangers have been exceptional to get to the last 16, the other 15 teams that are in there have been equally exceptional.
Yeah. You
don't get to that stage by a couple of fluke results. You've come through a group stage where you've played a series of six games where you really have to have overperformed just to qualify out the groups. Rangers managed that. Rangers achieved that. Did fantastically well, and the fact that they've now won a tie and progressed only goes to show you that the progression is actually there. knockout stages have been great. The fact that Rangers are starting winning games in the knockout stages is even better.
Yeah, it's another thing I was saying to my son the other day that I was like, you know what's really good, and it's only happened, in my lifetime. You're lucky if you're keeping into double figures. I was like, see when you're going to a European game midweek and it's still light. As you're going to the game, it's still light. Now, obviously, you get that at the start of the tournament, but when you're on the other side, when you get to sort of March, April time, and you're going to a big European game and it's still light, you're like, that's when you know you're at the business end of the tournament. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've always, since we've been doing so well in the Europa League in the last few years, I've always been like, just give us whoever. I think because we've missed out over the last few years, I just wanted the biggest names. I must admit, the draw yesterday, I was like, you know what? We've got to the last 16 the last 3 years in a row. I would like to get past it this time. So just give us, we've had the big name, we've had the Dortmund, we've done that. Just give us an easier route to the next round, and then I'll take what's coming. And I think that's what's happened. I mean,
the one thing, sorry, just to, before I get my head, the one thing is there, Colin, is the Rangers have got a certain kudos now.
Yeah.
I know, people will say that was some result. Some might see it as a huge target now being painted on the backs of the Rangers, players, that this is a team that, you have to beat if you're going to go any further. But equally, all of a sudden there'll be teams looking at Rangers and think to themselves, we really don't fancy that. The whole thing about going to Dortmund and winning, and then coming back and seeing what Dortmund faced at Ibrox, and the atmosphere that was, generated within the stadium. Speaking to a hell of a lot of people, there are not many occasions. If you listen to Ali McCoy from Talk Sport, he remembered the game against Dynamo Kiev. When he sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. Is
that what he says? Was it?
No, he didn't. He said it before. He gave the goalkeeper the eyes. And put it in the other corner. That was a great atmosphere that night. The Leeds one before kickoff was like electricity bouncing around the tops of the stand, and then Gary McAllister volleys were in from 25 yards, and it went eerily quiet. But all in all, I think you could tell the Rangers fans turned up, wanting to see the win, wanting to be entertained, but ultimately desperately wanted a performance and a result. And it was a celebration. It was as much a celebration on Wednesday night of what they achieved in the first leg as it was, making sure you saw the tie or saw your way through the tie. I think there were a lot of Rangers fans there. Obviously, couldn't be in Germany for various reasons. And it was a chance to celebrate an amazing 4-2 victory over there.
It was so big a night, and I was so elated with it, Stuart. Right, I came home, I think a lot of Rangers fans done this, right? I came home and watched the full game again, right? I was sitting till 2:30 in the morning watching the full game again. And then I watched the highlights a couple of things. I think I got to my bed at 3 in the morning, right? And I was still so hyper the following day and still full of adrenaline. That it wasn't until about the back of 11 that morning that I realised that I remembered that World War III had started the previous day. I was like, aye, the world's a bit shit in a minute. I just woke up like, hyper,
I remember when Rangers qualified for the Champions League for the knockout stages when they beat Parma, and they'd won the first leg 2-0, and then Lionel Charbonnier made sure Parma were able to make a game of it in the second leg. But I remember sitting with another journalist who will remain nameless, who in no way, shape or form was had any affiliations towards Rangers, but was sitting there with a huge grin on his face because this was the start of a big adventure, even for the press, and it was like you're almost like speculating who you might get and where you might be going, and the excitement that generated, and it has to be the same for fans watching the progress of their team. I mean, much the same as yourself. Rangers beating Parma 2-1 in aggregate. There was almost a kind of air of disbelief. So, the only thing that you could really concentrate on was where to get drink from and how long we could drink for. And it was, I must admit, it turned into a very good night. But that kind of buzz that big performances like that gives you, because you realise there's something at the end of it. You realise there's something else to look forward to.
Yeah.
Rather than a great performance or a good performance and the disappointment of not being in Europe. That excitement applies, I think, just about any lover of football. Fans of particular teams, yes, but I think anybody who loves football and they've witnessed that just enjoys the moment.
I mean, moving on to tomorrow's game, and that's the thing, you know, we're in such a state of euphoria and sort of, you know, we're all hyper and celebrating a momentum. I mean, it is a historical victory. I mean, not just for Rangers. I think in terms of Scottish football, it's a big result. But there's still the bread and butter stuff, you know, and it comes like as we've experienced in the past, like in 92, 93 and 07, 08, the games just come at you thick and fast. And so, I mean, Gio's and his players have got that result on Thursday night, and first thing on Friday morning, they're in the press conference talking about the game coming up on Sunday. And that's the thing. I mean, and given, you know, Rangers are 3 points behind at the moment, they need to keep that momentum going. They need to keep focused on the agenda at hand and make sure that the day-to-day stuff, the bread and butter stuff is taken care of, whilst also enjoying the fruits of your efforts in Europe. You know, it's that taking on all angles, so to speak.
Yeah, after the adulation, the acclaim of Dortmund, you say, you know, Rangers come back to the bread and butter stuff. Unfortunately, the bread was rather stale and had things growing on it, and the butter was quite rancid because, you know, and as great a performance as Rangers produced away to Dortmund, they absolutely toiled against Dundee United. These things happen. I mean, people saying, well, how could that happen? It's called sport. These things happen in sport. You will find teams that perform 1 minute and then don't perform the next. And I think, I think the result against Dundee United will have given Rangers such a jolt and such a shock that I really don't see the same thing happening this week. I know that there's a difference in terms of the opposition and the fact where the game's being played and all the rest of it. But I honestly think that the kind of turning up mentality and the results will follow. I think that's going right out the window now. And it's going to be interesting to see how Giovanni van Bronckhorst picks a team. Is he going to go with the same guys who did so well in midweek, or is he going to decide that actually a lot of these guys gave their all and the team needs freshened up?
I mean, that's sort of brought me on to my next point, and in terms of, you know, use of the squad and who's he going to bring in, if he's going to bring anyone in. I mean, Motherwell, I always find Motherwell a funny mob. You know, I always feel like they're a team that Rangers either pump convincingly or they get a real torrid time, and that's kind of reflected in the results this season. You know, they took a point off us at Ibrox in September, I think it was, and then we went to Fir Park, and you know, we've battered them 6-1. They're not in the best of form at the moment. You know, I think they've not won any of their last 6. It's 3 draws and 3 defeats. They've obviously lost Tony Watt. He's away to Dundee United, so that's obviously a big loss for them. But yeah, I still always just get a wee pang of nervousness when it comes to Motherwell, because I've seen it so many times that they've came up and done a wee bit of number on us. And so that does give Gio, I think, a choice to make. You know, does he go with the guys that done so well, or does he start to look at people like Roof, you know, even Sakala? You know, I think Sakala has been champing at the door for a while. You know, is it maybe a good time for him to come in and get a bit of game time?
It probably is, actually. Again, you don't want to make changes for the sake of changes. You want to be making changes to assist the team. And if there are guys needing a rest, you want them to be, taking a genuine rest. You don't want to just be patching them up to send them back out there again to try and get another win and another 3 points, because ultimately there will be bigger games, in the next few weeks, be that in cup competitions or be that in in the league. And I think just now, the strength that people talk about in terms of the Rangers squad will be tested to the full. There is it's okay having the numbers, but everybody within that squad has to perform. And you would look at the likes of Bassey, for instance. I said right at the start of the season, I thought he would have been my starter in the left back position. And others were saying, wait until Barisic gets back. Barisic has played some decent games, but ultimately I think you saw again the other night there just what a monster, what a tank, Bassey can be. He was having physical fights with people and winning those first and then beating them on the pitch as well. And I thought, he was outstanding in the second half. But again, having the big squad, you're still looking for people to contribute, even if they haven't played many minutes, even if they're short of game time, you're still looking for everybody to be on a kind of even level in terms of their performances. And I think that's where the next couple of weeks are going to be important for Rangers. We see it time and time again, people saying, they've got a big squad. They might have a big squad in personnel, but the performance levels within that squad leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the back four tomorrow, I think it'll be the same back four that finished the game on Wednesday. I think Bassey will be at left back. I think Balogun and Connor Goldson will be your centre half pairing, and obviously Tav at right back. But I think from your midfield three going forward, there are options. Arfield, I think, I don't think, in terms of talking about dropping him, but maybe giving him a wee rest, just resting him for a game. I wonder if Kamara might come in tomorrow. Again, I think Sakala might start, but also we need to have a wee discussion about Aaron Ramsey, Stuart, because that's him. He's been here a month now, and I think he's played about 30 minutes in total. Now, I don't want to overreact. We knew what we were taking on with Aaron Ramsey in terms of his injury history. We knew there was a danger of this. But is there now a danger that this move is going to turn into a damn squib? Because it's not even like, he's getting 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes and increasing it. He's coming in for 50 minutes, then he's out the squad altogether. He's in for another 20 minutes, out the squad altogether. So it just feels like he's, he gets in the team and then he breaks down. And, we need him. We do need him to start producing the goods.
The reason that Aaron Ramsey is at Ibrox currently is for entirely the reasons that you've just given. That there was this inconsistency either in terms of his performance levels or in terms of his fitness, which basically means that he's surplus to requirement at Juventus. Rangers have taken a punt on him, and thus far he has spent more time in the garage than he has on the road. You speak to somebody here who once bought a Dolomite Sprint rather than an RS 2000 and wished, because it was something different and it looked the part but didn't actually perform. And I think ultimately it may be the same with Aaron Ramsey. If the guy's fit and the guy's playing at a certain level, and I said this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, if he is ticking all the boxes, he is nowhere near Ibrox.
Yeah.
And he is here for a reason, simply because he wasn't doing it with Juventus. If he picks up on his game and he turns in some performances here on in, that's fantastic. But we've yet to see him giving a contribution where you can say the guy's tongue's hanging out after an hour, he deserves a rest, or he's made a couple of goals, or he's scored a couple of goals. We are miles away from that. Saying that, probably tomorrow he'll introduce himself to Scottish football with a hat trick including a back-heeled overhead kick from 35 yards out. But I think if I was putting money in, I would save my money rather than putting a bet on that. But you see what I mean? He has all the potential of being an incredible player, but ultimately there has been nothing this far other than a couple of brief moments and brief appearances that he has given anything back to Rangers.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of looking at tomorrow's game, obviously key that we get the 3 points. It does feel like we're approaching, we're in the sort of latter stages of the fixtures before the split. I'm not saying that there's no room for error anymore, but there's very little room for error. We can't give Celtic any more encouragement. We've still got to play them twice. But yeah, we need to now start making sure that we're coming off these European games and getting 3 points and moving forward. And a victory tomorrow, absolutely vital.
There are two Old Firm games still to be played. The gap at 3 points is still. It means Celtic are still catchable and beatable by the performances that you put in, but it means that you have to get 10 out of 10, 100% in all the remaining games to put yourself in that position and not to be reliant on anybody else, doing Rangers a favour. And you want to be in control of your own kind of destiny, and that means turning in performances, even when you're fatigued, even when you're tired, and even when you're going places on a Saturday or a Sunday or in midweek that you don't really want to be going. You still have to come up with those kind of levels of performance. I still think there's an absolute ton of football to be played. I think the result last week was disappointing in as much. Not just the type of display that Rangers put in, but also the fact it came a matter of days after they turned in one of your best ever, results in Europe. I think that was really disappointing. But there is still time to make up, and for that lapse. But you don't want any more. You don't want any more slips, any more lapses. You want to be going out against Motherwell on Sunday afternoon and make it as comfortable for yourself as possible, as quick as possible, so that you're not chasing games again. And there's a difference between being 2-0 up, or 2-0 up at half time, or 3-0 up at half time, and cruising through a game, and another one where all you're doing is chasing for 90 minutes. You'd much prefer to be, sitting back with the carpet slippers on, puffing on a cigar, than basically turning into a game into trench warfare.
Yeah, well, we'll find out tomorrow, and we'll have a show on tomorrow night covering that. I think hosting, and Ian Duff and Patrick Caskey, I think, are the guests. I think. So join us for that at 9:30 as per usual. I should also give a shout out before we wrap up, by the way, to Jamie. I was in Bavaria Bearhouse in Stockwell Street on Thursday night before the game, and he came up and introduced himself and gave a bit of love. Gersnet, he said he was very impressed with the pod, so thanks for that, Jamie. And also thanks to Stewaet for his contribution and for hanging about. I left him hanging last night, so it was very, very kind of him to come and
I had more teeth last night. My dentist, Adam, the Hibs fan, we'll have to get some scaffolding in, because I think I've lost yet another crown. Which actually I'm sitting looking at just now. It's not one that I swallowed, so we'll maybe even glue it in for later on.
Well, thanks to Stewaet for him, missing teeth and everything, and he still came in and turned in a performance for us. So a big thanks to Stewaet for that. We were live this afternoon on the Saturday afternoon, as I said, because we couldn't go on last night. But the show will be available to download and stream from tomorrow on a variety of platforms, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, all the rest of them. Got the show tomorrow night, as I said. In the meantime, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, guys. Tomorrow afternoon. And